Before we get started, let me read the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you have reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles.
Thank you. I would stand for a motion for the setting of the agenda. Mr. Helton moves. Mr. Gamble seconds. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Okay, our agenda has been set. Also, at this time, we need to have an approval of the minutes of the November 12, 2013 meeting. Mr. French makes the motion. Ms. Lambert seconds. Those in favor, please say so by saying aye. Okay. Are there any input on items on the agenda? Seeing no one running to the microphone, we shall continue. Our meeting tonight was called specifically for discussion and possible action regarding policy concerning violations of regulations concerning selling to underage consumers, and also discussion and possible action regarding temporary beer permits. I will apologize to this committee because we got some information late as of yesterday that is quite extensive, and I think possibly we may not be able to do a possible action, but this is a good opportunity to do some discussion on those items. So let's begin with the first item, if there is a motion to hear it, that being regarding policy concerning violation of regulations concerning selling to underage consumers. Do I hear a motion for that to go to the floor? Ms. Lambert makes the motion. Is there a second? Second, Mr. Carver. Any discussion at this point on that item? And again, I apologize for the mass amount of materials that has been placed before you with little or no opportunity to look at. Okay, I'll sort of start off here, but in conversation with Mr. Garrett regarding this information, he indicated that there was a lot that we needed to cover regarding this, and if you will look at the items that are in your packet, you will see that there is some case law that has been brought forward. There's also Tennessee Code Annotated that is brought forward about the powers and limitations of a beer board in dealing with such issues. And we do have a right or the empowerment to deal with these issues. We just have to be very careful in how we do that. One of the issues that the Secretary, Mr. Crawford, and I were just talking about is that we need confirmation and a line of communication between both law enforcement and the judiciary in regards to this. So as we go about setting our policy and dealing with these issues, then we need to take those into consideration. That will not only facilitate the proper dealing with each of these cases as they may arise, but it will also keep us in a timeline of dealing with them. And there are different kinds of conditions that allow for different levels of fines, different levels of probation, and different levels of, well, as I said, dealing with that. Has anyone had an opportunity to look at any of this, or has this discussion at this point created any questions that you would like to express right now?
The questions I had was what are the limitations of authority, and I think you've just answered that.
Okay. Whose seat are you setting in, Ms. Lambert, so I can, oh, you already got it. Yeah, those are spelled out in here, but, and we do, as I said, have some empowerment along those lines. So but we need to be very careful in doing that. For example, should there be a case where an arrest has been made, at that point, we are not involved because they're, under our system, they're still innocent until proven. And then they would go to the judiciary, and at that point, after that has been enacted, then the result of that would go back to the circuit court clerk, and then, part of our policy would be to ask that he or whoever's in that office to relate that back to this board, and, so that would be part of the process we would have to deal with in developing a policy. At that point in time, then it's spelled out that we have responsibilities to report to ABC, to some other areas or agencies, and there are timelines actually spelled out in there in doing it when you get down into the reading. So that's it. I think that would be a key part of the process, and that's always been a part of TCA, and there's been other situations that have occurred in the past, and this board, as long as I've been a part of it, has not dealt with that in any way. So we may be, or have been, remiss in some of our duties by not reviewing these responsibilities. Any other questions or comments regarding that? Mr. French, you look quizzical. No, not necessarily different, but within that, if you remember the discussion last time, we were going to require that if a party was judged to have been guilty of this selling to underage, that they report to this committee and indicate a plan or a process or some method by which they were going to prevent that from happening again. And it's not really a change. Everything else will be in play. What we're looking at is to have them come back to this committee for review on the process they're going to take on to change that from happening again. That was one of our discussion points last time. Mr. Farmer, you look like you're ready to speak.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Where am I at here? Hang on, I don't have you turned on yet. Well, turn yourself
If
on
you'll
again.
quit turning me off.
Okay, now how are you?
You're on. He's on.
Okay. Next time you can do it yourself.
I did. You turned it off.
Well, I'm just making sure you know who's got the gavel.
In line with the information that has been furnished tonight, I would like to suggest, I'm not sure exactly what motion and what second we have on the floor, but in line with both 5 and 6, I think we would be best served to peruse the information we have now been furnished by CTAS and by our county attorney. Schedule a meeting somewhere in the future, February, somewhere along that. And it would be my suggestion that the chair of the committee come up with some provisions of other locales for us to do a comparison. And at that time, let us go to work on enacting some possible regulations, and also on number 6, talk with our court clerk and get a suggested amount for a temporary permit.
Okay. That was, if you remember the beginning of this discussion, I let it off with the fact that we have received a mass of information that you've not had time to look at. In fact, I apologize, Ms. Burkhart, Ms. Birchfield, you came in late and I was telling, we just got this information yesterday. That's why I wasn't able to get it out to everybody in a timely manner. So that is well within the range of where we're going, Mr. Farmer. It's a good suggestion. Again, there is a lot of information there. One of the things that we could do tonight, and I hope we can get there, is clarify exactly what direction we're going in. And I think you summarized it pretty good by, coming up with the additional regulation that those bodies that have been judged to have violated underage consumption laws, that they would have to appear before this body. The second item on that, which is number 6 on our agenda, was to review the temporary permit. And there is information in your packet that deals with the granting of temporary permits. There is a state regulation involving that, and the clarification we would have to go toward would be to have our county attorney, and I have not had a chance to discuss that part with him, how much variation, if at all any, we can do. So we'd also looked at this process, giving everyone time to look at this for a while, and since there are no urgencies per se right now to have a policy in place by any given time, look at possibly February the 4th before the agenda committee meeting to give the chair and the clerk possibly chances to review with the county attorney and come up with a policy to submit. So
That was my motion.
if that was your, well, you never said it was a motion, but if it is in the form of a motion,
Yes,
we
sir.
have,
I didn't, I just said, I'm not sure what the opening motion was to put it on the floor, but if I
the
can
opening
amend it.
motion was, and it was passed, was for discussion of those two.
Okay,
And so your plan of action then would be that we have a chance to review all of these variations that have been provided to you, and that we come back together February the 4th prior to the agenda committee meeting, and hopefully by that time we will have a policy that we can put before concerning
No,
both.
not have a policy, have some information and comparable policies from other locales.
Oh, okay. I stand corrected then.
You're gonna have a hard time unless you're gonna write the policy yourself to bring back to us.
Well,
I think if you look at other locations, you can find some policies to bring back before us.
okay. All right, we will do the research on that prior to that point concerning these two items, the temporary permit and the appearance of those folks who have been adjudged to have been guilty of selling to underage. We'll have that information for you for this committee. Then have a motion by Mr. Farmer, a second by Mr. French. All those in favor of those actions, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, Mr.
I got a
Kirby?
question.
Okay,
I got a question about number 6.
okay.
Okay, temporary beer permits have to meet the criteria of a regular beer permit. The footage, the whatever and whatever, and they issued for only one day, right?
A 24-hour period according to the regulations set forth by CPAS and the
Have they ever been
TCA.
issued for more than 1 day, or 2 day, or 3 day? What are we going to consider a temporary time frame?
Okay, that would be a question that we would refer and gather information on
So it's
and
in
bring
here,
back to you, yes.
What we got in our package.
Actually, it states in the packet, it can't exceed 30 days.
So we're
Well-
talking, okay,
Temporary can't exceed 30 days.
okay, we
Yeah,
issue,
30 days is the length of that,
say we do issue a 30-day temporary permit,
right?
and in that 30 days, it gets violated. Now, are the same rules we're gonna take for the permanent gonna apply to the temporary?
Okay, that, the assumption would be that since it is, at this point in time, by TCA, they are granted under the same auspices as a permanent license, so to speak, then they would be subject to the same regulation as the permanent license.
Because that can happen.
That can happen, you are correct. Okay, those are the two items we had there.
Holden, Rhonda's trying to get your attention.
Who is?
Rhonda.
Before the agenda committee, that being 6 o'clock, the usual time. Are there any other discussion from this body? Okay. Seeing that you all have your homework packets and so forth, are there any input on items not on the agenda from anyone? Seeing no one stepping forward, I will stand for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Ms. Lambert?
And when you
Mr.
get done, I want to talk to you.
Gamble, thank you all,
Actually,
appreciate you
I'll- no, it's
coming.
not with you.
Again, I apologize for getting this information to you late.